Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on ways live field data helps control job costs with WorkMax. Today's subject matter expert is Merrill from Technology. Just housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is in listen only. If you do have questions, please type them into the questions box and we will address them at the end of the session. The webinar will be recorded today and we will email out a copy to everyone here on it. I will now turn it over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Kristen, and thank you, Accordant. Looking forward to this opportunity today. So we're going to talk about 5 ways that live field data helps control job costs. So to get started, I think from the top, something important to talk about is 80% of large construction projects end up being over budget. So this is a major industry problem and a challenge. And basically what that means is we're having a hard time forecasting exactly where we're going to land before we start these projects. So in order to make that more accurate, of course, we need to go to more digital methods of tracking the labor and the data that pertains to those costs. Also, 66% of construction companies are still using paper and spreadsheets to collect their field data. A little bit of history about our organization and how we come into the picture in order to help solve some of these challenges. About Time was started in 2003, and we started collecting mobile data on the old Palm Pilot system, if you recall what those are. If you don't, you can probably go to the museum down the street, and you'll probably see a few of them on display. As we continued forward with our innovation, we worked on the BlackBerry platform and then also Android and Apple as those came in 2007, 8, and 9. And then, of course, as we continued forward, about 2014 and 2015, we started hearing from customers that they were looking for a cloud-based solution, something that is a true browser-based option. And so that's where we started working on our current cloud platform called WorkMax. So WorkMax essentially is the answer to the market's question of how can we get better data into more people's hands and have complete visibility on a daily or real-time basis. So on this agenda today, we're going to talk about, of course, integrating that data first off and having that work with your Sage accounting system. And then also we want to get and route the right data to the right people in their mobile devices. And then from there, we want to be able to keep the projects and jobs on budget all through tracking this labor and production in one app. Now, of course, with a mobile solution that's integrated with your Sage system, that will help simplify the data collection in order to help you avoid those risks and those over budget items that can sneak up on you when you're on a paper-based or Excel spreadsheet-based system. And then, of course, on the wrap up here, the 5th point, we want to capture live production units to also report back daily progress and weekly progress from a real-time perspective. So the challenges, of course, that kind of lead into these 5 ways that we can help improve are, of course, your resources are scattered. As a construction company, you've got a lot of people, you've got a lot of tools, assets, equipment. You've got many resources that are disconnected and spread throughout your different projects and job sites. This leads to inaccurate or old data that you're making these business decisions off of that are, of course, critical and have a large financial impact. And then, of course, one of the challenges that really adds to this is having manual methods of tracking that progress. We don't want you to have extra or additional meetings that are possibly unnecessary if that data was shared throughout your enterprise in a real-time basis. So the first thing is, of course, when we're looking at labor costs, and the largest variable expense in any construction company is making sure that you've got the right number of employees on the right projects, and of course that you're not short any labor or any help in the field that you need to produce those results. So with WorkMax in place, you're able to have actionable insights to make those labor and resource decisions on a daily basis. Now, of course, with a mobile application like we show here on the right, this is just on an iPhone. And you can see here, I've got the job or project, I've got the cost or phase codes, equipment. I can track things like classification, or if you have leave codes, somebody has PTO or some other code or rate that needs to be tracked from the field or from management, that can also be done in the mobile app. And then even equipment cost codes like changing the oil or maintenance on a piece of equipment, etc. So all of these things will pull in with the data sets from your Sage system and be pushed out to the WorkMax mobile application. So all of this together is what helps to simplify and really streamline that data collection of every kind so that you've got actionable insights to make those decisions off of. Now, of course, with Sage and WorkMax, we are both even better together. Again, WorkMax is the center hub of that data collection process within your organization, and we're able to feed that payroll and job cost system, other things related to possibly HR or collaboration, of course, payroll. If you've got third-party payroll systems, we can also feed data there if you need those to go to more than just one place like Sage. So lots of options to integrate and pull that data together and then push it out in the field for them to collect things properly based on your business workflow. One of the things that's been a very important and popular innovation over the last few years, we were actually awarded a patent for the method that we track true facial recognition in the field in a mobile device. And so this helps eliminate buddy punching or employees logging time or putting costs against a project that they're not physically at. The other thing is we have the ability to track GPS locations of where those tasks or cost codes are logged in. And so we can also confirm that the employees are actually on the site that they are claiming to be on. You see a geofence circumference here around the project. So this will monitor any punches that are outside of that area and also confirm that they actually are physically on site. In this particular case, you see my in punch is over here. It's outside of the geofence, and that alert will come into the office with that time record. When we pull in the photo for the biometric measurements and reading within the mobile application, we give a percentage match to the source image. The important thing here is that you have control of this threshold. So if you've got things like PPE equipment or face masks, hard hats, etc., those things will all still allow for the punch to fall within your match percentage and not throw a false negative on your record. So this is proactive management by the system so that you don't have to be reactive or necessarily pan through or scroll through hundreds or possibly even thousands of pictures in order to confirm that your employees are truly putting time in for themselves. The other thing, of course, is we have budget tracking based on your quantities or units put in place. So this is another thing to help measure not only the hours, but also the production and those things that are being produced. If you're in the electrical business and you want to measure how many outlets or light switches or fixtures are put in, those things can be monitored and tracked as they go throughout their shift. At the end of the day, they'll be prompted to put in the number of quantities for the tasks that they were working on. So in this case, if it was concrete and it was square feet, when I punch out at the end of the day, this alert will come up, put those quantities in. So in a little bit here, I'll go through a live demonstration of the mobile application, and I'll show you kind of how that looks in real time and to give you those options that you need to track that labor and production. All right, one of the other very important things in making sure that your job costs are accurate, of course, is making sure that those correct projects are available to the right crews and staff within the organization. So here I am, Mike Merrill. I'm at the Salem Elementary School, and you see that project is available to me based on these permission profiles that we've given the system. So when you assign a crew or crews to certain projects, or if they're doing a certain scope of work, those things can be made available to them in the system based on the criteria that you set up. We can also automate this, so when you hire new staff, new employees, they're a member of a certain crew or group or team, again, they can automatically get those same profile options automatically assigned to them. You'll also notice here, we can leave field notes. This can be voice to text, need 8 more yards of 6.5 bag concrete delivered at 4 p.m. today. So this message comes in with the time. when it's pushed up to the cloud, so that your administrators or those that are managing those things can be alerted and help make those decisions. Another thing that we can do with WorkMax is we have what we call digital forms tracking capability. So we're able to fill out information like a daily progress report or some type of a work order. In this case, I'm talking about tearing and cutting out concrete that's got some cracks in it. I can annotate and take a photo and have other documentation that actually will come from the mobile application directly into the cloud. And then again, it's not an attachment or a text or some other method of communication. This is directly to the system where it can't get lost, and it was automatically routed to the proper people. So they have that documentation continually. The other thing is, you know, if this is a work order, change order, or something else, we also have the ability to automatically send that out to the people that are involved, even including the customer, when that form is completed. So if they've signed something or signed off on something, they also have that same documentation that you have within your company. This is kind of an example of the same thing. So we have on a cloud-based PC that's logged in, has visibility to the same thing that was put into the mobile application out on the project. So again, you have visibility kind of through a windshield instead of having to look at the rearview mirror and figure out what happened on something. You've actually got that documentation in real time as those things occur. The other really powerful thing with this WorkMax Forms feature is we have the ability at the end of a shift or in the morning, whenever you want, you can trigger these forms based on their punch in or out. So they can answer a series of questions, like in this case, any injuries or accidents on the job site to report. You'll notice this red asterisk on the left, that's showing that these are required fields. They must be answered in order to complete this form. So if this form is launched on a punch out, then they must complete this form before they can finish their shift and actually clock out at the end of the day. And of course, you see at the bottom here is the signature that's captured with that form. The other part of the platform that feeds into time and forms tracking is asset or equipment or tool tracking. So what happens here is in your Sage system, if you're managing your equipment in there, we can pull those lists automatically into WorkMax and actually have those available on the mobile application as well. You can hit the double arrow here to assign equipment from one person or one job to another, and that will move that asset digitally within the system, so that the next time you're looking for this generator, you have a kind of an audit trail of where it's been, who had it, how long it was used on which projects, etc. So you're not only automating the management overall, but you're also reducing lost or stolen equipment because you have complete visibility into the last location that it was had. And then also, if you've got equipment that's sitting around or not being utilized very regularly, you have the ability to make decisions to sell that equipment or put it to work on more projects, bid and estimate more projects that will keep that equipment busy. So all of these things are helpful in not only tracking, again, time and labor and production, but of course those tools and those pieces of equipment that are used in being more productive on your job sites. With the Sage integration, we have many touch points where our system will, again, connect to Sage, pull in those employee lists, feed those hours that are collected in WorkMax back over, pull those jobs and projects or extras like we have here, cost codes, and then equipment. So this data is flowing. If you're on Sage 100 Contractor, we do utilize the API, so we're feeding that data into the daily time card entry. And then also with Sage 300 CRE, same situation. It's an export into a CSV formatted file that will feed directly into Sage and be able to be uploaded on that side. So in both cases, those integrations are going to move data back and forth between the two systems and make sure that we're in sync completely with your Sage software. So with that, I'm just going to pull up a mobile device here on my screen. This could be an iPad, an iPhone, an Android device of any kind, or tablet. So essentially what will happen is each of your employees will put their PIN number in. In this case, I have Wesley Roberts. I'm going to clock in. So I hit the time clock, and you'll see at the top, here's my project or job name. If I click on the Payson City Center job at the top, it will bring up the available projects to me. So if I am indeed at the Payson City Center, when I hit the in button at the bottom left, you'll see it's going to force me to fill out this COVID mandatory daily safety form. So we can trigger on a punch in or out these forms for safety or for other things. With COVID, this has been very helpful and useful for a lot of companies. I'll just answer these questions as you see here in the left. They're required because of the red asterisk. So yes, I'm feeling healthy and well. No, I do not have any of these symptoms. And you'll see here, I've actually got an external link to a YouTube video. In this case, it's for the COVID safety for social distancing. So it actually will make me watch this video through the application, and then what I'll do is I can affirm that yes, indeed, I did watch it. So I'm documenting, or I can pick from a toggle that I have. I did both options, so you can kind of see that I've confirmed that I watched that video, and now I need to sign off. I hit accept, and now when I hit save, that form is automatically routed to those who need to get a copy or see it. And then you'll also notice here I have the cost codes of what I'm working on that project. Now I set one up here under excavation so you can see there's actually phases or secondary extras or sub cost codes, whatever you want to call them. So let's say I'm doing clearing and grubbing. And now because I chose clearing and grubbing, it's actually going to have me choose the equipment. I'm using this John Deere grader. Now I've got equipment, my cost code, and you'll see in the top left, I've got my facial recognition. It's going to grab my photo. Again, here on the screen, I can click on this and add a note. If I want, I can do voice to text. So all that data can be collected very quickly. I hit confirm. And now it punches me in, grabs my photo, confirms my location, and then all of that data that was within the application is now sent into the cloud and available for review and approval and payroll and job cost processing, etc. So the other thing is, if I hit a different PIN number, so this is for Carlos Montoya, and you'll see here, Carlos actually has the app navigation in Spanish. So this is multilingual for Spanish or English based on the employee and their profile. So that's very nice for managing a diverse labor force that, again, may have different language preferences. The other thing, when I come in here to clock out at the end of the day, so for Wesley, who we logged in earlier, when he hits the out button, what you're going to see is a different list of questions than the initial one for COVID. So what I have here is no injuries on the job site. Did you take your meal and rest breaks? Yes, I did. And then, are you feeling any COVID symptoms now? So at the end of the day, you have the ability to come back in and confirm that they aren't feeling any ailments as it might relate to COVID. And now I can confirm here and sign off. Hit accept and save, and now it's going to have me put in the quantity. So I'm tracking cubic yards of material that was clear and grubbed. Let's say I did 18 yards. I hit set, and now I can confirm my clock out at the end of the day. So in both cases, I've filled out different forms that are unique. Again, confirming the injuries and the breaks, that I was injury-free, and then also that I'm still feeling well with COVID. Now, if I had answered yes to the COVID question, then it would have had me fill out the other form with the symptoms that I'm feeling. Then you have reports and the availability to say, okay, let's run a job report and see who all was on that project today with Wesley that may have also contracted COVID or had a potential issue. So for contract tracing, you've got GPS to verify who was physically there, etc. So lots of powerful options that are now available to you because you've gone through this method of tracking time and labor in real time in a mobile app that has GPS and facial recognition. So one other workflow just to go through on the mobile app as it relates to time tracking. If I go back in under Mike Merrill, you'll also notice this other employees list. So I do have the ability, if you want, for Mike to clock in other members on his crew. So Ryan, Donnie, and Randy are all on my crew today. We're at this project. When I clock in, we're working on concrete flat work, and there's the whole crew, all of us working together. I hit confirm. Now, of course, it's going to capture my face for recognition to confirm that the foreman is the one that put time in for Donnie, Randy, and Ryan. So this isn't facial recognition by individual in this case. However, it is facial recognition for the person that you're trusting to put the time in for others. So this is a setting. You'll also notice here on the camera area, if I touch this camera button, it will actually turn the camera around and take the image from the front-facing camera. We did this for COVID reasons. So if you've got a foreman or crew leader that is taking pictures of another employee for biometrics, if I turn the camera around, you'll then see my face as if I'm another crew member that is having the time logged by their foreman. So this is still an option if you don't want people sharing their device and you know, potentially risking being exposed to potential COVID or other safety concerns. So I hit confirm, and here's my crew clocking out, or in this case in. Now let's fast forward and say it's lunch or the end of the day, and I'm ready to clock that crew out. When I hit the time clock again, what you're going to notice in this workflow is there's 3 others already selected. So we have a setting to remember that I have turned on, remember the last crew that I was working with. And so it will automatically remember that list of guys pre-checked in for you. Now I can always say Donnie and Randy are staying, and now Warren and David Smith are not. So again, I can make changes to those things if I want, but in any one of those cases, again, as a foreman, I have complete control over that crew and what's going on. Now, one other thing as it relates to time before we move into a little bit more of the forms. If I click on the timesheet in this case, which is different than real-time punching, let's say I'm just going to fill out a time card for David Yates and Warren Scott. I hit next, and I can build a time card for 1 or more days here. So let's say we're going to do the date. I'm going to say 10/29/20 is the date. The cost code they're working on today is stamped concrete, and that's it. Again, I've got it defaulted to 8 hours a day. I can say, well, they actually work 10 or 9.5. And when I put that in and hit create, it's going to build a time card for these employees. And you'll see here, I've got the ability for them to sign off on their time. Same thing with Warren. So those signatures accompany those times, and now that I save the timesheet, and that comes in with the same as the punches. So this is not real time, it's not nearly as accurate, and you're not going to get the benefits of facial recognition, but that is another workflow that is available as a setting within the system. And so it's important for companies to be aware that we do have multiple options for companies that have different needs. So now that we've collected a bunch of time, let me just come back in and review the time entries in the clock. So these are the punches that we did today. And you'll see I have a calendar view. I can look at yesterday. You'll see all these punches for these crews. If I click on this button here, it will bring those all into one record and give me the total. So what you'll notice here is that Chris doesn't have an out punch. He's got one punch, but not the other. So that will be a pending record when it comes in the system and can be fixed. That's a question that comes up a lot. Also, I have the ability to come in here and say, I'm going to sign off on my time as an employee, and that signature will accompany those records. And these check marks here designate that those approvals were already signed off and done. So now that I've done that, I can either send the time automatically, just on demand, or we have other triggers that will send that time to a cloud also. And so now that those times have been collected, they will get sent to the WorkMax Cloud, where they are totaled up and tabulated. You'll also notice the check marks here of those signature approvals that happened. So if I come in and look at the sign off, you'll see those signatures from the foreman or approver as designated here. I've got sign off 1 in the office, so this is the manager in the field, sign off 1, sign off 2 in the office. If those are approved, which none of them are for the office on the second level, but they all are for the first. So you'll notice here, again, Mike Merrill, admin, signed off on those last night at 11:30 p.m. So that's what we can do from an approval perspective. If I select all of those and I want to approve those on the second level of the office, I can simply come in to sign off and click on this, and it will give me my login through the cloud, date and time. It's 8:33 a.m. Mountain Time where I'm at. And so as soon as I hit save, these check marks will appear in this column and show whoever the payroll processor is or admin that those approvals actually have been done. So we're not only tracking the time and labor, but we're helping that processing side of things as well as we go. All right, if I come back into the mobile application, I'm going to go back. We did fill out some forms that were launched by the application from punching in and punching out. Let me show you on demand. So if I just click on forms, I can hit the add button at the bottom, and it will give me a list of available forms that I may want to fill out. So this allows, here you've got safety meeting attendee form. So I could come in here and go fill out the form. What you'll notice here is that I have a drop-down option of different toolbox talk items. So I can say we're doing COVID-19 safety, entries on photos. Again, if I've taken a photo, I can pull it up from the library or the archive, or I also can take one live with the camera there. I've actually already completed one of these just to kind of show you as an example. So if I want to view that form, there's the signatures of all the attendees. You'll also notice there is a picture entry here. If I click on the entry and look at photo, actually what I'll do is I'll show you here in the control center. Here's what that form looks like that was filled out on the mobile. So we've taken a photo of social distancing training, and you'll also notice here the signatures that came in. We talked about hard hat importance or whatever the topic was of the day. So again, these are selectable options by you. So when the field is having those toolbox talks or safety meetings, those things are being documented as they go. Other forms like that, we looked at the daily field log already, pouring concrete. Notice of violation if there's a warning or something, you need text to come up in red, or again, certain signatures or titles. These are all customizable fields in WorkMax Forms, so you have control over what data points you need to collect. Per diem and expense forms, so if we're tracking expenses of automobiles or mileage, or tires, fuel, whatever it is, parking, hotel, anything that, here's a airport parking stub. Again, just whatever those documentation pieces are, that data can automatically get routed back to the office. Injury form, so if somebody twisted an ankle coming down these steps, the forms, we can document that. We also have the GPS location of where they physically were when that form was filled out. So all of those data points are automatically emailed within the system and allow you to have not only real-time visibility into what's going on in the project, but also really cover your liability from a safety perspective within WorkMax Forms. Now, also with forms, I mentioned before, these things can get, the completed forms can get emailed automatically to whoever is desired. We also have the ability right in the mobile app to email a form off to anybody in a third party. So here's the physical location of that project where this form is filled out. I can simply put mike@abouttimetech.com, and it automatically emailed a copy of that form to that individual, whether it's HR, customers, sign off, change order, whatever form or documentation needed to be put in place and shared with another third party. That data is automatically sent. So, all right, so we've talked about time and forms, and then let's talk quickly about the equipment tracking. So when I come into the mobile application, you'll see equipment as an option. So I have inventory, usage, and assignment. So if I want to look at inventory, that's just going to give me all of the pieces of equipment that are available within my enterprise. So I can click on this CAT C7 diesel, and it will actually show me all of that information, next service date, etc. So all of those things are all part of what we pull in from your Sage system. If you're not tracking equipment in Sage, but you still want to track equipment, you have it in spreadsheets or some other method, we can also link up to those systems and pull this same type of data in. So that's the inventory piece. Assignment is, let's say I want to look at those that are assigned to Mike Merrill on which projects, and I just click on this check mark, and it will show exactly where those are at. If I want to say I want to reassign that to somebody else, I can just check on it and say it was at this job and it's assigned to me. I want to assign it to Bill Owen, and I want to assign it to this Salem City Center project, and I hit reassign. And now it moves that equipment from me to that other individual and to that other project. I check on all. This is showing me all the equipment that's assigned out currently. So I can see who has it, where it is, where it was last utilized, etc. Now all these things come into reports also. So there's a lot of visibility into what's happening with equipment, who has it, where it's been, etc. So again, with assignment, you've got really who had it and where, what did they do with it. Usage is something that we can actually fill out after the fact. If I'm a foreman or a crew leader or somebody that wants to track equipment daily, I can simply hit select. And for today, those pieces, EQ, and I'll just give it a name of 1029, and I hit create. And it basically builds out a timesheet for those pieces of equipment. I can even track them by cost code if you want to. But essentially, I'm able to say 8 hours of this, 10 hours here. And so those could be varying hours based on equipment, or they could all be the same. Those are options that I have in both cases. So I save that usage sheet, and now that those three pieces of equipment are going to get allocated properly with those hours to those particular projects and that number of or quantity of hours, and then exported into Sage for billing or for tracking. So all of that data, if we come back and look at the WorkMax Cloud, so here I've got equipment like we just looked at on the mobile app, and if I click in that same data set, descriptions, we've also got whether equipment is owned or rented. So if I just make that editable and just look, so I can have pre-selected rental vendors that I can track. Maybe it is rented from Ace Rents if I wanted to say that. So I'm tracking equipment that may not even necessarily be owned by me, but it's something that we're utilizing, and I want to track that separately. So all of those same tabs that are in the mobile app are here. Same situation. If I look at assignment, any of those assignments for a given date range are logged here. So here's where they are, their schedule, when they're due. So if they're past due, you'll see these time clocks come up and the dates. So lots of alerts and visibility into where equipment is, how it's being managed and handled, and essentially what is going on with those assets out in the field. All right. So with that, I wanted to wrap up with our connector tool. And this is called ConnectMax, and I've just got it here shortcutted on my taskbar. And you see here, I've got my Sage payroll export. I've got a date range, broad date range. You'll see here at the bottom, I have over 20,000 hours in this export. So if I scroll through those, there's all the different regular overtime, sick, whatever different pay type was included in a given shift. name, all of these different data points. So I can simply hit the export button, and what that does is that will export all those data points into the Sage file system. This is for Sage 300 CRE. If it's Sage 100 Contractor, we can push that data out right through your WorkMax Control Center from the time system. And how that happens is, let's say I'm ready to process payroll on these records. I'm going to run a batch. This is my pay period that I'm running a batch for. I'm batching 21 records, essentially for payroll. Those now move to the batched area of the application. It puts them all on one line. You see this one I've got, looks like obviously 3 different days on that time. Again, just varying time records. What I'm going to do now is that I've got those times approved and batched. I'm going to hit process. What that does is runs the overtime rules that I have in place. Now, in most cases, what I did is I put anything over 8 on certain employees to be overtime automatically. So that's why you see 8 hours here and 1 hour and 55 minutes of overtime. But you'll notice for Maxwell, he didn't have that same rule in place. And so maybe this was on a Saturday or some other rule with this. So we can have varying rules by employee that will apply to those shift records before we send these to Sage. So now that they've been processed, the overtime's broken out properly, I'm just going to hit close. And when I close that data, now it's locked and can't be modified and edited. And now it's ready to send off to Sage. So if we're going to send it to Sage 100 Contractor, we can do it here from this area. If we're doing Sage 300 CRE, we're going to launch ConnectMax, and ConnectMax will pull that data that is from this control center in the cloud and format it here, and then this will load this over to Sage 300 CRE. If I look at that export, it will look something like this based on your format. So fairly simple and straightforward. There is an opportunity for review. If there's an issue for any reason whatsoever with data that was either in ConnectMax here or in the WorkMax Cloud system. Let me just pull that up. So let's say, for example, Randy Grant, maybe he had 10 hours instead of 8 hours and 56 minutes. I can come in here and reverse the batch on just this one record. And now that comes back to the open side. I can make my modification here. Let's say 7:30 to 5:30. We said he works 10 hours. There it is now. Now I can go back through batch that one record. Now it's over here. And I'll notice that this one is not batched or processed yet. So I'm going to process that. And you'll see that will, again, no overtime in this particular case. His might be 40 in a week. And then I hit close. And now that data is back over to ConnectMax and ready to, we just reload that. And it will pull that back in now that it's closed and have that ready to send over to Sage. So in each one of these cases, we're basically taking paper out, we're taking the process, the brain work of breaking out overtime, we're letting the system manage that based on the rules you have. You can always edit and do overrides to allow for certain things to have overtime applied, or if you've got one-off situations, you can control those before you send them to Sage. But in every case, we're collecting this data on a mobile device in real time, or at least daily for sure. And then that data comes here, and then it lands back in Sage where you want it for effective payroll and job costing. These steps and methods are what are going to confirm exactly who was where doing what they accomplished, when they arrived, when they departed, and then you can have confidence in that data that you're feeding back into Sage to really rein in those job cost inaccuracies and take control of your largest variable expense in your business, and that is labor. So with that, I just wanted to take a minute or two and see, Kristen, are there any questions from the audience that we can answer today?
Yes. questions. The first question is, can the WorkMax mobile app work offline to collect data, even if there isn't cellular data connection?
Great question. So yes, so WorkMax works offline, literally in airplane mode. We have companies in mining or oil and gas exploration, where they're working on a dam project up in a canyon on a reservoir. Yeah, it works offline. These are native mobile apps. They do not depend on a connection of any kind to function. Any other questions?
Question is, yep, I have a few more. Does WorkMax vacation, time off, and time?
So yes, thank you. So one very popular method of doing vacation or PTO is the timesheet option. Can be filled out by a supervisor in advance or after the fact. So I can give 8 hours of vacation or PTO to anyone that I have stewardship over, and that will come into the office just like all of the other, just like any of these time records that we see here. The vacation or PTO would come in as an 8-hour shift. It would be overtime exempt, and it would feed into Sage just as if it happened, however you're doing it today.
Okay, next question. Can employees use a company tablet for clock in and out, or do they have to use their smartphone?
Great. So yes, they can use any tablet, Apple or Android. There is an option also for any Windows-based system. There is a time clock in the cloud. That's an option. So just like we saw in the mobile app, this is something you can get to from the cloud. So.
Okay, and the final, does it come with a dock station or a way that all people can clock in at one station, like a time clock, but cloud-based?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, any Android or Apple tablet, even like a $99 Android tablet from Walmart, whatever it is, those can be mounted just with any kind of stand or holder. We often refer to those as a kiosk, and every employee that needs to see that or see their name in that and use that, if it's in a shop environment or a warehouse or wherever, those things are all able to be utilized and accessed by any employee that's proper. So those can also be connected to the cloud through, if they've got a Wi-Fi connection, that data will send and sync just as if they were, right there in the office. So, all right, well, thank you for that. Appreciate all the attendees today and the opportunity to share this message and this information and how we can help work with your Sage system to give you better control of your job costs. Here's my contact information, and of course, you can always contact Cheryl if you want to schedule a custom presentation or talk to us more directly about your unique business and how we might be able to help you.